Welcome back to another demonstration of OpenAI. For today's video, I wanted to go over a kind of spur-of-the-moment project that came up. Recently, I've gotten into wanting to record video games so that I can go back and edit them, pull moments out of it, make sort of highlight videos. You'll probably see some of those at some point on my channel. Um, so first of all, I want to acknowledge that this is probably not the best way to do any of this. It was a rabbit hole I ran down and just thought it was super interesting. But what I've been doing for the purposes of my video capture is recording full sessions, and then I intend to go back up and splice it with the various events that I want to pull out. One of the things that I thought was complicated in the first couple days of playing is I unexpectedly had a few marathon days, and that generated hours and hours of video. Um, I don't remember what happened in each part of that, and I don't really want to have to go back to figure out where each little thing happened. So I have an Elgato Stream Deck, and what I did is I went and created a set of buttons that can log an event. When it happens. So all I have to do is hit a button and it will activate a script with certain parameters and it'll write out to a log message. Um, and this just creates a text file inside the same folder that does all my videos. But what I wanted to do is walk through how I created this Python script. If my main gaming PC had been Linux, I would use Bash, but because it's Windows, I just find Python to be significantly easier when it comes to Windows. And when I set out to write the script, I remembered this OpenAI thing, which kind of got me started on this whole set of videos that I've done. So I picked it up today and I just walked through creating this Python script that's going to do all the things I want it to do. So what I want to do here is try to recreate, which may actually create a different script than what I'm actually using, but I wanted to walk through the steps that I took to do this to show how a developer could use this to create something from scratch. So the first thing I wanted to do was I just want to write a file. If it exists, and if it doesn't exist, use that same file. So the first thing I wanted to do is pass in a file name, and if that file name or if that file exists, good. If it doesn't exist, let's create it. So we're going to ask it to write the script. You can see that it is going and grabbing the first system argument and checking if it exists. Sorry, if it does not exist, create the file. Otherwise, print that it does exist. So cool, did exactly what we're asking for. Now, I don't like just pulling arguments from their position. I like something more complicated that does actual parameter parsing. So I'm going to ask this to upgrade to use argparse, which you can see here. It goes through and rewrites that first part to use argparse. And now it's looking for this argument file name. So now we need to add an additional parameter, and I'm going to modify my previous query because I don't like what I actually did with it. So we're going to take a new parameter that takes a type as a string, and then we are going to append a line to the file with the format, current timestamp, and type. See, it added the argument for type. And then down here, it opens this up. And the really interesting thing about this when you try and run it again and again is it does things differently every single time. And part of that is this randomness that's here in the temperature. But what I find interesting about that is, especially as a developer, you have your own styles that you like and don't like. So one of the things that I I thought is interesting with this is that it went in and added a timestamp here with a time format when previously it just generated the date time now and threw that in as is. So I wanted to call that out. If you do these things multiple times, it is interesting to see how you will not get the same results if you do it over and over again. Sometimes that can be good if you're unhappy with what you actually got. Maybe you can run it again and get a different result that you're happier with, or change the prompt a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we are going to update the code. Realize after I did this that it does not take a file path. So what I want to do is update it to take a directory as a parameter and prepend that to the file path. That way we can call this, write this file out to any directory that makes sense for us. So you can see output dir has become a new input parameter, and then you'll see here that it has file name, is the type that it's pulling, the output dir, all of those are coming from the arguments. And then for the file path, it is joining the output dir and the file name. I actually realized that I missed a step, so I'm going to go back and run that now. I want it to not take the file name as the input parameter, but instead I want to set the file name based on the current date time. So I'm going to combine multiple steps that I've done previously. So we're going to set the file name to a variable current date time. Sorry, current date and current hour. All right, so you can see it removed file name from the input parameters. And then what you're going to see, once we scroll back up, it's going to get the current date and it's going to get the current hour. And now you can see it's creating a file name with the date and the hour. And then it's going to append this path with the timestamp and the type. So I think that includes the current hour. I think that is the bulk of what I did. Yeah, so what I can do is essentially I can hit this button on my Elgato Stream Deck, and what it does is each button has a different type that it's calling with. So, I might have one that's for fight or achievement or a blooper or funny moment. And what that'll do is it'll just log a little in the file. It'll log a timestamp and the type message, which will let me know if I want to go back to make a video later or the type of video I may want to make. This is where some event happened and the type of event that happened. So it's just something real easy and simple that, again, probably not the best way to do this, but it was fun exploring like building a Python code with this. I want to go through one last thing that didn't work out. Not that it couldn't work out, but I wanted to do it again and explain why. So what I want this to do is update this script to determine the name of the focused application in Windows and add it to the file name. All right, so you can see it comes through here. It imports Windows 32 GUI, and the rest of the script is, as we expect it to be. But what you see here is now we have date, hour, focus window name. So great, this code is perfect. It'll do exactly what I wanted. Except I did not know when I initially did this that Win32 GUI is not a provided package with part of base Python. It is an additional module that you have to install, which really isn't something I was that interested in. So again, really, really useful. Code should work, I assume. I haven't tested it out with this functionality here. But I decided to remove it because I just didn't feel like going through the extra step. This isn't supposed to be a best solution for what I'm doing. It was just a fun little side project to play with this. So actually I remembered coming back to this that there are a few things that I need to update to get this the way that I want it to be. So I'm going to come back and remove this Windows GUI that we have here because we didn't use that. But part of the arg parse, what I really like out of it is the Linux flag type format. So what I'm going to do here is take this, added those flags in so that it will execute the way that I expect it to. What I would like to do is come back and try to do this in a single shot with better requirements all at once. Alright, so we have condensed and reworded some of this into a single request. So we're asking to write a Python script that uses argparse and takes -- output directory and -- type as arguments, sets the file name to a variable in the desired format with current date and -- current hour.text, and then check to see if that exists, create it if it does not. Append a line to that file with the format current timestamp -type. Those are all the requirements that we gave it previously in multiple commands. We're going to see what happens when we give it to it in a single command. All right, so we can see here that this is actually a slightly different output. So I've got it side by side. Unfortunately, I can't share that the way I'm set up right now. But all of this is approximately the same. It, like I said, has slightly different format. Previously, it pulled type out of the arg parsing up here instead of, you'll see, it just pulls it out right here. Current date and current hour instead of date and hour that it uses variable names previously, but it creates that file name. It joins the OS path. It checks to see if the file exists. In this case, it is not logging whether or not the file was there already or if it was created. But then you can see it has basically the same functionality of writing that file name out. So I'm going to go ahead and take this whole script out, replace my existing script, and we will give it a run again and see what happens this time around. So I'm going to run a single sample. Looks like that worked. So now I'm going to go hit buttons. And we're going to take that, and you can see that it actually appended previous output that we had, but it did not format the timestamp this time, so it has the microseconds in as well. All right, thanks for watching.